Hi, so now we're going to learn how to make a mini stop motion animation using Adobe Photoshop 5, CS5.5, I believe we're on. First of all, we are going to need to choose to make a new document in some size. In regards to what my students are looking at, it's going to either be 640 by 480 or vice versa. So I'm going to make a document that is something along those lines myself. And you want it to be at 72 pixels per inch because this is a web-based project. Okay, and then this is a funny problem I made here, but you want to make sure you are dealing with pixels, not inches. Or this would be an absolutely enormous document. Okay, so here we are. And so we have this small document. Okay, so the next thing that you need in order to move forward with a project like this is you want to have a layers palette set up. You want to have it open and ready to go. And then under Window, you want to come to what's called, in some of your, on CS6 it would be called Timeline. In CS 5.5 it's called Animation. So for those of us who are using the older version of Adobe Photoshop, you would be clicking this link right here, which is the frame view. For the people who are using the newer version of CS6, you would be finding that little preview right down here, and it would be the same thing. It would be little tiny boxes. Okay, so we have a frame. We have our frame view here. We also have our layers here. Now, the first thing that we need to do is bring some pictures in. So I'm going to return back to this file that I worked with prior. I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to open up a few of these photographs that I made in the previous demo. Okay, so we have these pictures, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go in and I'm going to open all of these pictures, select them all, and bring them into one of them so that I have multiple layers to work with. So I'm going to do a Select All, Edit Copy, and Edit Paste. Okay, and I'm going to do that for the remainder. Select All, Edit Copy, Edit Paste. Okay, I'm going to delete the ones that I don't use here. Select All, Edit Copy, Edit Paste. And finally, Select All, Edit Copy, Edit Paste. Okay, so we have these four photographs here, and you notice that there's a little extra room for purposes of moving forward on how to do an animation. I'm going to get rid of those, so I'm just using my crop tool, selecting return after isolating the area I want, and then pushing return, and it cuts the picture for me. Okay, so we have these four pictures here in your layers palette, and similarly I'm going to make 4 frames. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the frames and the layers work simultaneously to show how we can make a picture show up and how we can turn it off. Okay, so first of all, one rule when you're dealing with animation is anytime, in frames view I should say, anytime you're dealing with frames, animations, or stop motion animations, the first frame is always going to be the one that you're loading content in usually, but that's also the one that's going to, unfortunately or fortunately, load that same picture into every additional frame. What that means then is it means that if you put something here by accident, you're going to find that it's going to write over as many frames as you might have in this animation unless you want that. If you don't want that, then you want to isolate the frame that you want to add the picture into and move forward. But anyway, let's come back to that. So in this particular picture, I'd like to have this little girl available, or for those of us who it's easier to have frame in layer 1 selected, layer 2 and frame 2, let's do that. So in layer 1, I'm going to turn off each one of these particular layers in frame 1, and I'm going to only show layer 1. In layer 2, in frame 2, we're going to show layer 2. In frame 3, we're going to show layer 3. And in frame 4, we're going to show layer 4. It usually doesn't matter what you have open as long as the one that's on the highest level of your layers is the one that you want seen. So whatever's underneath it, we will not see. But anyway, so if you look at here, if you look at the eyeballs, you're going to notice that whatever is turned on, layer-wise, is what's showing up in the frame. So again, if we come back to layer 1 and by accident we had brought in a picture, layer 4 say, it's going to then fill to each additional frame, and we don't want that. So go ahead and turn off what you don't want and come in and deal with that. Now, one other thing that we are going to do is we're going to change the timing. So right now if we play this animation, this is what it looks like. And there's a little play button down here in your dialog box. But I want to have this loop. So right down here you have an area where you can control how many times the animation plays. So right now it's just ridiculously fast, far faster than our eye can really handle. So if we push stop, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down shift on my keyboard, and I'm going to select the first frame and the last frame, and that gives me a selection of all the frames, and then I'm going to change the speed. That's just going to slow it down just a little bit. I've noticed, by the way, that I turned this off. Let's go back and fix that. There we go. Okay, so that's a little slower, and that also allows us actually our chance to see each one of those pictures. And then if you wanted to, for a little bit more nuance, you can change the speed of some of them, and that's going to hold us a little longer, our eye or our attention on that frame, which might be really nice. Okay, so we have this little animation set. Now I would like to show you something else that's pretty interesting, and it's using the tweening function. The tween is when you can create some sort of time-lapse movement, and it's a very simple function, but at the same time it's really effective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I don't know, I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new frames, and on the last frame I'm going to turn on a new picture, but I only have it in the last frame of that series. I'm going to choose each additional frame that I just made that I want to have tween, and what I want it to do is I'm going to have it fade in from frame 4 to frame 9 by selecting the tween button. So you'll see what happens. Okay, so we can speed that up so it looks a little bit more smooth. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so because we have her on a longer delay, it feels a little strange. I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to change it to 0.2 seconds so it's all consistent. So anyway, the tween just adds in a little extra flair to the animation style, and it also is just helping a blending. Some might call it a Ken Burns effect. You could then go even further and do a Ken Burns effect, which would be you bring the picture here, so you move it a little bit. I'm going to turn this one off. So in this one, I'm going to turn all of the ones that I don't want to see. I'm going to tween it. So I'm holding down all 3 that I want to tween, clicking the tween button, and it's going to just have this one move up. And if I wanted to tween more, make a few more, select the last one, and have her go out of the picture completely. Like that. So we started with a simple animation of 4 pictures. We loaded each one of those pictures in by turning on the layer as it related to a frame, frame by frame. Then what we tried to do was take, in the series of 5 frames, have the picture blend from this little girl to this little girl. And so what we did is we selected shift, and we had the picture of one little girl that was on layer 4, and on the last one of 9, we turned on layer 3. We selected all of the frames that were going to be a part of that blend, and we clicked the tween button. Similarly, the same frame is going to be a part of another type of tween, which is we're moving the picture out of the we're moving that little photograph out of the composition. So I'm selecting 9 and 13. I'm also pushing tween, At the end of that tween, you're just going to assign where you want the picture to move to. And over the course of those small frames, it's going to move that picture off the canvas. I hope that this has been helpful. The last thing that you can do in terms of how you're going to be saving this animation is you're going to come up and you're going to go to File, and I want you to export it, Render Video. There's two different ways. One would be if you wanted to do a GIF animation, but in the case of my classes, I'm having you do little videos. So choose the Render Video function and go ahead and assign it a name. So let's see. I'm going to select the folder that I want it to be saved to. I definitely recommend working on your desktop. And for now, for purposes of how this is working, I am going to have you choose a QuickTime movie. And as frame rates go, bring it down to about 24 frames per second. Okay, so you're going to select Render. And that's going to show up on our desktop. Now, as it's rendering, the next thing that you're going to need to do to make it so that we can see it on your blog is I want you to make a YouTube account. And in that YouTube account, you can upload this little movie file. Also in YouTube, you can go in and there's a button underneath your movie and it's going to say Share. You're going to click the Share button, it's going to give you a URL, and that URL you're going to embed into your blog. And that's how you're going to show us your project for the final. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.